Okay, we're taping. We have a lot to do. Jessica, if she's not here, she'll probably watch the videotape. Amy will probably watch the videotape. And it just leaves Brooke. I hope she does. So here we are, last night of class. It went by fast. So, Anthony, you haven't missed a night, have you? I don't either. Alicia, have you missed one?
I missed one,
Yeah. We all get 10 point bonus on the exam. Made up the exam today, 50, I believe, multiple choice. Could be 40, but I believe it's 50. On chapters 8, 9, and 10. Okay. A couple other things. What SIG gauge, Alicia, are you finished with?
I finished up to 9.
You finished up to 9?
I'm already done with 9. I just got the 10.
How'd you do on 9?
I got 100.
Good. How about you?
I started 10 today.
10? All right, hope you are in good shape. You're up where you ought to be. If you'd had 8 finished and half of 9, I'd been happy, so I'm more than happy. Amy, I hope you and Brooke and Jessica are all up to date. You should be finished with 8 and almost 9 on Cengage. All right. Now evaluate your instructor. Have you done that at least? How about you, Anthony? Have you done that?
No.
You see now, Anthony, if Alicia's the only one evaluates me,
He's gonna know what I said.
I would either be doing great or be doing bad, depending on what her opinion is. So I need yours in to average in with hers.
Well, you're the only one I've even done evaluation on, so that's a good sign. I
I'm the
gotta
only
do
one-
good work.
I'm the only one what?
That I even done one on.
Oh, okay, that might be a
The
good
other ones
thing.
wouldn't have been too good, so I did them.
But will you do that, Anthony? Evaluate your professors. Okay. And Amy, same for you, and same for you, Jessica, and same for you, Brooke, if you're still with us. I hope you are. But Brooke was right here every night for most of the semester. All right, you have a good Thanksgiving, Alicia. And you had, how many days did you have off? 7? 9?
Yeah, well, I had Friday off too before. Not my classes on Friday.
So you had 10 days off. I had 11. How about you, Anthony? How many did you have off?
I think I just had the week.
Huh?
Just the week.
You have classes on Monday, Friday?
Monday.
You don't have them on Friday. You had 10 days off. 2 weekends plus 5 days plus 1. That'll give you 10 days. So anyway, you're all rested up and ready to go. Chapter 8, just know a bank reconciliation, even though it's in a multiple choice, you will have to work out a bank reconciliation. You may have to find a bank balance, and to do that, you add deposits in transit, deduct outstanding checks. You may have to find a book balance, and to do that, you will have to add notes collected and interest collected, service charge deducted, bad checks deducted, and mistakes can go either way. Your petty cash, 1 entry, and 1 entry to replenish it. That's chapter 8. All right, if you've done Cengage on it, did you have to do a bank reconciliation on Cengage? Okay. All right. Missing 1 night for water got us behind. And that's a whole week. Now, chapter 9, I may have given you assignments, I may have not. We probably don't have time to go over, we'll see. But can you do interest? Can you calculate interest? Bring a calendar if you don't know the days in the month. Okay? You can have 1 page of notes from chapter 8, 9, and 10. Since we missed that night, and I'm rushing chapter 10, 1 page, 1 side. 1 page, 1 side. And that's plenty of notes that might help you. Okay, the exam is 1 week from today, starting at 6 o'clock. Okay, and you can stay till you finish. All right, which better be around 6 o'clock. But if it takes longer, I'll give you longer. All right, that brings us up to date then on exam, professor evaluation, Cengage, chapter 8, hopefully a little bit of chapter 9. Now on chapter 9, we did not get to go over bad debts real great. We had the direct write-off method where you debit bad debt expense and credit accounts receivable. We had the allowance method. Two situations under the allowance method. One was percent of sales. You don't have to know the balance in your allowance account. The other one was the aging method, sometimes called the balance sheet method, and percent of sales, sometimes called the income statement method. You have to worry about what's the balance in your allowance account. So if you age your accounts receivable and you have 12,000 you think is going to be bad, you look at your account where you got 2 there, then you only need to put 2 in it. Now that's an adjusted entry, whereas you debit bad debt expense and credit allowance for doubtful accounts on December the 31st or at the end of an accounting period. All right, now that is a little bit of 9. If we have time, we'll go back and look at more of 9. Now depreciation, we probably barely started. We got a lot to do with depreciation, amortization, and depletion. And I'm glad you're all here tonight. You always get more out of being in class than you do watching the videotape. All right? If you're watching the videotape, please practice with us whatever we do. All right, fixed assets is what we're talking about, and that's property, plant, and equipment. The fixed assets in this room, we can depreciate the podium, the computer, the monitors. We can depreciate this building, fixed assets. The land the building sits on is a fixed asset, but we don't depreciate it. We don't depreciate land, even though it's a long-term or fixed asset. Fixed assets are physically, we know that, they're owned and used or they're owed for. You're not ready to sell them, that'd be inventory. Right now I'm not worried about classifying cost. Of course, we could have some other assets called investment, that's a different category. All right, now if we were building a building to rent, commercial property, we can depreciate it. But now while that's being built and something stole, that does not add on. If you replace it, it does not add on to the cost of the building. If the builder makes a mistake, it costs you, you don't add that to the building. You just add on what it takes to correct it. If it's stolen, you don't add it on to the building. If it's damaged during unpacking or installing a machine, to repair it is not part of the machine. Fines is not added on to the cost. Now, if you were buying a house today to rent, you had to pay sales tax on the house, you add them on. If you had to pay for a deed search, you add it on. If you had to pay for a water inspection, sewer inspection, you add it on to the cost of the house. And that's what you depreciate then. But you don't depreciate the land that that house sits on. A journal entry here is debit equipment, credit cash. What do we debit equipment for? The purchase price plus freight cost, on-site installation, including 500 due to an error in installation. All right, 12.5. Where'd that come from? Probably here. But we take it out. We add the 600 and we add the 1500. Here they added the 5, but you take it out. Okay. So debit equipment, credit cash. Leasing, we won't talk too much about leasing. Now, if you have a piece of leased land and you build a building on it, you can depreciate the building. You, not the owner of the land. If you've ever leased an automobile, don't. It's a bad deal. You would be the leasee and the leaseor. Wait a minute, the leaseor is the one who owns it. You're the one who leases it. The leasee. All right, but if you do lease an asset, you can take the expense off right away. All right, repair and maintenance could be the leaseors. I'm not worried about the leases. Not worried about them at all. But now depreciation, I am. So we're going to spin a spell on depreciation. There are 3 methods: straight line, defining balance, and units of production. Those 3 methods we need to practice: part year, full year, and every which way. Now, when we have depreciation, we debit depreciation expense and credit accumulated. And we know why we depreciate something: wear and tear. This computer is probably only good for 3 to 4 years. Some may be good for 5. Software programs may be good for 3. We amortize software programs. We depreciate the computers. So we do have to know its cost. We have to know its life. We have to know its residual value. Now, what's another name for residual? Scrap, trade-in, disposable, residual. Scrap is the one I commonly use, but it could be trade-in. All right, the cost is $50,000. The life is 5 years. The scrap value is $2,000. All right, give me the depreciation for year 1 and 2. Straight line depreciation is equal to cost minus scrap over the life in years. So use that formula, calculate that depreciation. How much?
9,600.
All right. Did you say 9,600?
Yeah.
9. Yeah, that sounds right. Did you get the same thing, Alicia? 9,600. Got to get it before we move.
Yep.
All right. 50,000 minus 2 leaves 48 divided by 5 is 9,600. All right, now we're going to buy this same asset, same formula, but we're going to buy it September 1, 19. Now, how many months do you have left? How many?
30,
2,
30.
3. What are we gonna do in September? You gave me October, November, December. September 1, you still got the whole month of September. So let's go 4 months. Let's put 4 over 12. What will 4 over 12 reduce to? So what is 1/3 of your annual depreciation? 90, was it 94 or 96?
96.
Multiply that by 1/3. 3,200. That's part of your depreciation. All right. Now what if we'd have bought it on? You figure that one out. May 1, 19. What'd you get?
6,400.
All right. You took what, the 9,600 times 8 over 12? That'd be 2/3, wouldn't it? 2/3 of 9,600 is how much?
6,400.
You get the same thing, Alicia? Okay. All right. Straight line, you could do it. You can write this formula down on your notes or from the book. Now this comes from IRS. They've got a table somewhere you can find the useful life. And then they tell you 3, 5, 7, 10-year property, what goes in the categories. Like a truck is depreciated over 5 years, and equipment 5 years. Residual value, they give you some more names here like I did. I guess those are synonyms. Salvage, trade-in, scrap, disposable, throwaway, whatever. Trade-in. Depreciable cost. If an asset costs $50,000 and the scrap is 2, which we had a minute ago, what is its depreciable cost? How much did you depreciate when you did that problem? Come on, you know that. How much did you depreciate in it? 48. All right, that's depreciable cost. All right, find the straight line depreciation on this asset. You should have an answer in a flash. What's your answer? You get the same thing, Alicia? All right. Now, you debit depreciation expense and you credit accumulated in year 1, and year 2, and year 3. What is its accumulated depreciation after 3 years? What's the accumulated depreciation?
13,200.
How much?
13,200.
All right, that's the 44 multiplied by 3. Now, what is its book value? What's the book value at the end of 3 years?
10,800.
All right, 10,800. Anthony did the right thing. He used the cost. of 24 minus 13.2 give you 10.8. You don't use the depreciable value, and that's my point. So we've looked at this one. We've got to look at two more, plus depletion, plus amortization. Here's a formula for straight line. But now I want you to look here at these rates. Now, that problem we did a minute ago, Anthony, it was 4,800, 1,000 divided by what? 5, and that gave us how much? Huh? 5,600? 96. All right, now, 5-year depreciation up here, Anthony, is what percent a year?
20%.
That's 100% divided by 5. That's 20% a year. 4 years would be 25% a year. All right, now, Alicia, take 48,000 times decimal 20. 48,000 times decimal 20. Same thing, right? Okay. Just wanted you to see that. Now, what years do we not have on there? We don't have 3. Give me the percent for 3 years. Three into 100. What? All right, or repeated decimal 333. Now, we've got 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years. Give me 12 years. What percent a year? How much?
8.3%.
It's 8 1/3. All right. How about 6 years? You see, 6 years is half of 1/3. 3 years is 1/3. 6 years is 1/6. 16 2/3 is half of 33 1/3. Just like 8 1/3 is half of 16 2/3. Fractions, decimals, and percents are easy if you ever get the relationship with them. All right, why do we want to know this? For double declining balance coming up. Coming up in a minute. Now, the units of production method first, it's the same formula as straight line. Cost minus scrap over the life in units. So, let's go back to that $50,000 piece of equipment. $2,000 scrap. Now, a unit could be an hour, it could be a mile, it could be you made a unit on an assembly line, automobiles, you made 10 automobiles, that's 10 units. Now, what if the life were 100,000 units? Give me the depreciation now per unit. Get that, Alicia? Now, what if we produced 10,000 units the first year? Multiply that by 48, and what have you got? Right. So you two are easy to teach to. You catch on quick, you answer quick. Same thing here, different example. 220 a unit. And if you produced between 100 hours, the depreciation would be that amount. Units of activity method, just like straight line, but you use units to find the depreciation per unit. You still debit depreciation expense, you still credit accumulated. Now, for all these years, you'd multiply that by, every year you'd multiply that by 220. Each one of these, multiply them by 220. This one's answered for you. Now we're going to go to double declining balance. Now when I say double, a 10-year life is what percent? And you double it. It'll be 20%, double declining balance. A 5-year life is what percent? And you would double it to make 40. All right. A 20-year life would be what? $20 into 100. And you'd double it. 25-year life. And you would double it. Got the hang of that now? We double declining balance. All right, let's see if you got the hang of it. On declining balance, you don't take out scrap. So the first problem we had for straight line was a $50,000 piece of equipment. Scrap was 2. And the life was what, 10 years or 5 years? 5. Right? All right, find me the double declining balance depreciation for year 1. No scrap, double the straight line rate, is how much? Huh?
20,000.
All right, now, was it 5 year or 10 years? I'm sorry, was it 10 or 5? 5 into 100 is what?
20%.
That'd be 40, wouldn't it? All right, 40% of 50,000 is how much?
20,000.
Now that's year 1, but be careful. Year 2, you got to start off with the book value. The book value is 30 times 40%. And that's 12,000. How do we do year 3? How much would that be? What's year 3?
It's 18,000.
All right. How much would that be?
7,200.
In the last year, you may have to take it all in the last year. Now, let's practice one. Give me the first 2 years of this problem. Okay, machine costs 20,000. It's a $1,000 scrap. And the life, that's a S. Now, give me the first 2 years, double declining balanced depreciation. All right, forget about scrap, right? Okay, 10 years is what percent a year, straight line.
10%.
But if we're doing double declining, that would be what percent?
20.
Lisa, you got that too?
Yeah.
Would that be 4,000 the first year? And you go with book value the second year of 16 times 20. Is that 32? All right, and so it goes. That's double declining balanced depreciation. Now we did part year, didn't we? We did part year on straight line. The units of production, don't worry about part year. You find the rate just like we did. What was it, 48 cents or 42 or something?
I think so.
All right. But if you only produce 600 in 2 months, that's what you multiply the rate by. 600 might have been November, December. So there's no such thing as part year. You've got straight line part year. Now let's look at declining balance part year on this problem. 10 years. Forget about scrap. I'm going to leave this part here. Now, if we bought that 1st of March, that would be 3/1/19, 1st of March. That's 10 months left, isn't it? Count that month now, Alicia. Count March. 10 months left. Give me part year depreciation for year 1. $4,000 times
5, 6.
10 over 12. I meant to make that. Hey, I meant to make that come out. It was like 9 over 12, 75%, but I didn't. So what does that give you? 4,000 multiplied by 5, 6.
3,333.
Is that correct, Anthony? And a third. Now the second year, the book may show you different, but you get the same answer and they show it to you a harder way. Take your book balance, which is 16,667 times decimal 20 for 12 months, and that should work. Are you okay now? Double declining balance, part year.
Where did 16,670?
That's your book value, 20,000 minus 3,333.
Okay.
All right, now we'll practice one of these before the night's over. Now I want you to look at this problem. Forget about scrap. 5 years is 20% a year, but you double that and get 40. 40% of 24,000 is 9,600, just like I showed you. Okay. Make the same entry: debit, depreciation, expense, and credit accumulated. That's an adjusted entry, December 31st. Now, if you were depreciating this out, you get down to year 5, and if you only have this much left, you take it all. You don't multiply that by 40%. You take it all because it's only good for 5 years. Three methods. Compare those when you look at your textbook. We're talking about part year, and I did that with you as we moved along. The part year for this use production method don't exist. Just use what I told you to do. They're going to show you different on declining balance. Ignore it. Okay, revising depreciation. Let me run that by you. The cost is $140,000. Life is 5 years. The residual's 10. All right, 140 minus 10 divided by 5 years is 26,000 a year. Now, after 2 years, what is the book value of that equipment? After 2 years, what's the book value? 140 minus what? Minus what? $140 minus what? After 2 years. What is your accumulated depreciation after 2 years?
That's 20,000.
What?
I mean, yeah, 20,000.
Well, it's 26 for 1 year.
Oh, okay.
What would it be for 2 years?
32,000.
26 times 2 is 32?
Oh, wait. I can't do it when you come back that off.
What is it, Anthony? Oh, praise the Lord, we finally got it.
Oh, I don't know what I was,
Huh?
I was thinking.
What's my book value here then? 88? Okay. Now what's happened here, please listen. After 2 years, our book value is 88. We decided to depreciate it 5 more years. That makes a total of 7. 5 more years. And we're going to change the residual value to 5. All you got to do is take that 88 minus the new residual value of 5 and divide it by 5 years. You're starting over again, okay? That's how you revise depreciation. All right, look at what they've got. And they used 2 years just like I did. I didn't know what they used. 52,000. Take away, they used a different scrap, and they went up to 8 more years plus the 2. And the annual depreciation is 10. Now we're going to have to look at some repairs and maintenance, and I'd like to have a lot of time to practice this. We won't. That's why I'm letting you use a page of notes, and try not to keep you here all night tonight. Semester's going by fast, isn't it? And Alicia, you better find a way to take accounting 2 next semester.
Okay,
I'll come and look you up, and if I can't find you, I'll hunt you to death.
okay, I'll try.
I'll hunt you to death. I took a survey one year of my accounting principles class, and about a third of them had deer meat for Thanksgiving, because that's probably a good deer season, and that was their Thanksgiving dinner. A lot of people have to have turkey, a lot of people have to have ham, but it don't have to be turkey and ham. When I was growing up, it was always pork. We killed a hog on Thanksgiving, and we had fresh pork for Thanksgiving dinner. Right after I give exams next week on December the 16th, I go to Bristol, and they'll do 2 screws in my bones, and I left a lead heel like for 3 months before I finally get my 2 implant teeth put on those 2 screws. It's a long time. It's probably going to hurt. Then it's supposed to have a flipper made to fill those spots, temporary or partial. And I called him today, and they only got in, I'll understand, something they got to rework, and he's got to have me in and look at it and then send it back. So maybe by the time the second semester starts back, I'll have something to plug in. So I won't get my 2 front teeth for Christmas. I'll get the screws. All right. If it is a repair and maintenance, it's a revenue expenditure, and you just debit repair and maintenance expense and credit cash. If it's a capital expenditure, though, we depreciate it. That's why we called it a capital expenditure. We depreciate it. Now, ordinary maintenance repair is a revenue expenditure. We debit expense and credit cash. Now, if you get a used car and you put gas in it, put that under gasoline expense or repair and maintenance. If you run that car for a few months, you put new tires on it, put it under repair and maintenance. Now, if you bought a car for your business today, a used car, and you put new tires on it, that is cost of the car, added onto the car and depreciated. All right, but here is an entry for ordinary repair and maintenance. But sometimes we get this kind of repair and maintenance called extraordinary. And they are capital expenditures. and they will extend the life probably of the asset. Now you got a car, and in that automobile account, you have an automobile, let's say a truck for $30,000 you use in your business. Well, now on down the road, you put a new motor in that automobile, and that new motor costs you $5,000. That don't mean we debit automobile, because then it looks like that automobile cost you $35,000 when it did not. So what do? We do this. We debit accumulated depreciation and credit cash for the extraordinary repair if it extends its life. We'll make that car last longer. Now when you take it out of depreciation, that makes your book value higher. You got less accumulated depreciation to take away from your asset, so your book value is higher. Now improvements, all right. Got a lot of pickup trucks during this time of year, and they put a blade on the front of that pickup truck and go around scrape parking lots and driveways. They can depreciate that blade separate. It's not an improvement because it comes on and off. But you know, if you took a delivery truck and put a hydraulic lift on it, you can debit delivery truck. That adds on to the value of that delivery truck. The blade on the truck you can take on and off. You'd have to change your depreciation because your truck cost has changed. All right, we don't have a lot of time to spend on discarding fixed assets. Do you own a car, Alicia? How many ways can you get rid of it?
You take it to the dealership and trade it.
Trade in. Okay, yeah, definitely trade in. That's one way.
Or you could sell it to somebody.
You could sell it right out. That's two ways. Now, if you total it and you get insurance out of it, that's the same as selling. That's the sale price. So we can total it, sell it, same thing, or trade it. How about giving it to Goodwill? You can give it away, can't you? You can just take it to the junkyard and park it. It has no value if you throw it away. All right? So, getting rid of a vehicle. If we fully depreciate it out, of course, we don't have time for these journal entries, and on multiple choice tests, you don't have them. But it's good to be aware of them. May even have one in a multiple choice question. You know, this truck is on your books for $25,000, and when you credit it here for $25,000, it has a zero balance. Accumulated depreciation, AD, it has a credit balance of $25,000, and when you debit it, you have no balance in truck or accumulated depreciation. This is if you give it away and you depreciate it out, or if you threw it away, or if you took it to the junkyard. Now that truck may still have value, and you can still keep it in your business, but you can't take any more depreciation. You might use it 5 more years. But this is if you discard it. Discard it means you are moving it out of your business. Now you got to bring depreciation up to date. No residual. It's depreciated 10%. The accumulated depreciation after adjusting entries is $46.50 on December 31st. On March the 24th of the following year, the asset is removed from service and discarded. Now, January, February, March, over the 15th, you count 3 months. So you got 3 months depreciation. Now we know over 10% a year, that's $600 a year. That's $300 for half a year, and that's $150 for half a year, which is 3 months. Half of a half a year is 3 months. Bring the depreciation up to date. Part year depreciation. Now, if we throw it away and it's not depreciated out, we have accumulated depreciation 48, cost 6, then we've got a loss if we just throw it away and get no money out of it, right? Now, to sell a fixed asset, you bring the depreciation up to date. We're selling it October. And how many months that would be? We're calling it 9. Because it's before October 15th. And we're going to sell this thing at book value. Equipment, $10,000, credit, accumulated depreciation debit, and we're going to sell it at book value, $22.50. But what if we sold it for just $1,000? What would that other $1,250 go into? What do you think, Anthony? A loss. And Alicia, what if we sold it for $3,000? What would that $750 go into? Credit, a gain. Debit, a loss. Debit, a loss, Anthony, right here. Credit, a gain, Alicia, right here. Okay. Now we're going to get up to natural resources. What are some natural resources in West Virginia? Do we have timber in West Virginia? It can be replenished. Do we have oil in West Virginia? Probably. And you said coal? What else? Do we have gas? What's gas? Do we have rock quarries? Limestone rock's a natural resource. Put it on highways. Do we have salt? Where's our table salt come from? Do you strain ocean water to get table salt? Huh? Have y'all ever heard of Saltville, Virginia? It's a little town near here, on the Virginia side. They've got a big trout stream nearby, a big tumbling trout stream. Then I've been to Saltville. It's named because it had salt mines during the Civil War. It supplied salt to the South during the Civil War. And it's probably not 2 hours from here. Okay. So salt is a natural resource. I doubt that West Virginia has any gold and silver, does it? Don't think so. Could have copper, I don't know. I know somewhere down in Tennessee they have had copper mines. I believe Virginia, near Roan Mountain, they had a copper mine there long time ago. All right, so minerals, that's all that's important. Natural resources. When we get to natural resources, it is called depletion. Oops, it's moving on now. Depletion is the same thing as depreciation, but it's on natural resources. We debit depletion expense and credit accumulated depletion. Now, it works the same thing as the units of production method. If Mercer County sold out all their coal rights for $10 million, that's every homeowner in Mercer County sold out their coal rights for $10 million, and geologists and mining engineers estimated there was 100 million tons of coal in Mercer County. What would be your depletion per ton? Divide 10 million by 100 million, see what you get. 10 million by 100 million, what do you get? 10 cents per ton. That's probably really cheap. So it'd probably be more like this. At least like this. That'd be $1 a ton. Or it could even end up like this. 1 million tons, $10 million, and depletion is $10 a ton. But it's the same as the units of production method. You'll have a page of notes. You can write this formula down. Here we have coal, cost of a mineral deposit. We can take out 100,000 tons. Now I do want you to look at this part. 400 divided by a million gives you how much a ton? And we multiply that by the 90,000. IRS, it has to be the tons sold, not the tons mined. All right, here's your journal entry. Debit depletion expense and credit accumulated. There's no such thing as part year. Intangible assets, patents. What do you get a patent on, Anthony?
Yes, ideas.
What?
Ideas, inventions.
Invention. You're an engineer, inventions. All right, how about copyrights, Alicia?
Maybe like a business or something, I guess, like a logo or something.
Well, you can probably get a copyright on a slogan or a jingle. Trump's slogan is what?
Like American Great Again.
Okay. Anyhow, copyrights is on songs and books, poems, and literary and so forth. Copyrights. A trademark is on a product, whether it be Ford or General Motors or symbol. General Motors owns this symbol for Chevrolet, something like this, something like that. Ford has the little slogan, Ford has a better ideal, built Ford tough. I think Dodge and Chevrolet has one, too, or GMC. All right, trademarks. Now that's probably a name, a brand, a symbol. Now Goodwill. All right, you want to buy this little corner zip-in market, and the owner wants 200,000. Well, you get appraisers to come in, they appraise the groceries and the equipment and the building and land, and it's only worth 180. Why would you give him 20,000 goodwill? Because he has it started, he has customers, he took the risk, and he gets goodwill. He's not selling it to you at fair market value. He's selling it to you 20,000 above fair market value, and that's goodwill. Now, the intangible asset, we don't take depreciation, and we don't take depletion. Anthony, how would you pronounce that word?
Amortization.
How would you pronounce it, Alicia?
Amortization.
All right. Every student since the beginning of the time, they break that up and call it amortization. It's amortization. Amortization. It don't have the word mort in it. Amortization. So you two are no different than those in the past. They all pronounce it the same way. Okay. So you learned a new word today, if nothing else. And English was my worst subject. You don't like English, Alicia? Amortization. That's what we take on a patent, copyright, goodwill. And the thing about it here, our journal entry, I'm trying to find it, we debit amortization expense, but we credit the asset. These are intangible assets. Fixed assets are property, plant, and equipment. You know, your mineral rights can be under fixed assets. Your intangible, a patent, can be under fixed assets. Now, a patent here, it will not expire for 14 years, but its life's only good for 5. So which one do you use? 14 or 5? All right, I would use 5 years because that's all it's good to me in my business. Use the smaller of the two. Of course, IRS says 15 years. All right, publish and sell a literary, artistic, or musical composition is a copyright. They can be extended for 70 years or the life of the artist. Copyright is the cost of writing that music, getting a band. Copyrights are amortized over their estimated useful lives. A trademark is a name, term, or symbol. Ford, Chevrolet, Dodge, Honda, Subaru. All right, they have symbols too. Most businesses identify their trade name with a little R right there in their advertisement on their products. Under federal law, businesses can protect their trade name by registering them for 10 years. And you can renew it for 10 more. All right, the only product I see here is Germ something or other. I don't see a little R. That's for advertising. This is Germex. I guess Germex is the trade name. If you got a calculator, see now, Anthony and I have Surface Pros. Anyhow, they made a smaller version. I believe they call it Surface Go or something like that. believe that's as far as it's letting me know. Here we go. Intangible assets. On December 31st, it was estimated that goodwill of 40,000 was impaired. Now, impaired means a loss. In addition, a patent with estimated useful life of 12 years was acquired. Journalize the adjusting entry for goodwill. You debit loss on goodwill and credit goodwill. Get it off your books. Here you debit amortization expense and credit patent. You can read this in your text. So read chapter 10, please, by next week as you're studying for your exam. Now here's your long-term assets on a balance sheet. Less, of course, depreciation. All right? Accumulated depreciation on the office equipment and on the building. Patents, you don't have accumulated. Now, if you had minerals, you'd have accumulated depletion. Now, I'm not worried too much about an asset turnover ratio. I hope it didn't end up in a multiple choice. But if it does, it sells over average book value of fixed assets, beginning and ending. Book value is cost minus accumulated depreciation is equal to book value. Now the appendix, I'm not going to give you anything from it. That's exchanging, that's trading in Alicia's car on another car. And that's a good part of the chapter. We just don't have time to get into it. You don't recognize a gain or a loss mainly. If her car was, if they gave her trade-in of 5, she had to pay 20 different, then her new vehicle cost 25. All right? And somehow or another you'd have to write off the old vehicle on the books if it was a business vehicle. All right, I'm going to give you all a problem on depreciation, chapter 10. On page 524, I want you to do exercise 5, 7, and 10. All right, we're going to take a break if you want it for about 10 or 15 minutes. If you don't take a break, you've got something to do. 3 exercises, okay? But at least stretch your legs. me bring that notepad here and let's get the next part of class going. I'll try to work these little problems I gave you. And we may have a little time to review some notes, bad debts. I believe Jessica Holly Davis, I believe she's been riding with Amy, hasn't she?
Mhm.
So if Amy couldn't come, Jessica couldn't come. But anyway, I'd like to have a class of 20 with people like you all in it. Okay? I have 12 in my principal's class during the day. Probably 16 on the roster, 4 of them just dropped away. But out of those 12 on Tuesday, 4 showed up. So, they're not real serious this semester, some of them. Anyhow, you're what college students should be. You try to do your homework, you try to do your Cengage, you try to come to class, you try to stay updated. Others do too, that may have a reason they can't be here. Anyway, on these little problems, straight line depreciation, here we had convert each of the following estimates of useful life to straight line percentages. 10 years is what?
10%.
8 years is what?
12.5.
You see, 4 years, 5 years, let's see, 4 years is 25%. 8 years is really half of that when you get to it, so half of 25 is 12 and a half. 25 years,
4%.
40 years,
2.5.
2.5%. 5 years,
20%.
and 4 years,
25%.
and 20 years.
5%.
All right, you got that part, no problem. Okay, number 7, depreciation by the units of production method. We have a cost of 90,000, a scrap of 15. Okay, 90 minus 15 over how many units? 30,000. That's 30,000 into 75. How much is that per unit?
2.5.
How much?
2.5.
2.5%? No, mate. $2.50 per unit. All right, and how many units did we produce this semester? This period?
120.
120 times 2.5. That's 240 plus 60. Is that 400?
300.
Yeah, 240 plus 60 is 300, isn't it? All right, no problem. Units of production. No problem converting straight line. No problem doing straight line. All right. Depreciation by 2 methods. A storage tank acquired at the beginning of the fiscal year at a cost of 75. There's a scrap of 10 and an estimated life of 20. Determine the amount of annual depreciation with straight line. That's 75 minus what?
10,000.
Over how many years? 20? All right. That would be 65 divided by 20 is how much a year?
3250.
$3,250. Okay, now for the tied and balance, it's still 75, no scrap. 75 times what rate? How much?
10%.
20 years, 5% a year, times 2 is 10. That's 7,500. Now that's for year 1. How about year 2? What do?
Start with 67,500.
You got that down. Okay. Now, what entry would I make right here for depreciation? Debit what? Depreciation expense and credit accumulated depreciation, right? Okay. Now let's look at a couple more exercises. Capital revenue and expenditures. Let's look at exercise 14 real quick. Now remember, a revenue expenditure, we take it off as expense right now. A revenue capital expenditure, we depreciate it, amortize it, or deplete it. How about we change the OR? Revenue, capital.
Capital.
Now remember, revenue, we take it off as expense right now. A capital expenditure, we depreciate it. So what is it now? Revenue. I want you to get a hang of this. We install the television in the sleeping compartment of a truck. Take it off as an expense or depreciate it. Take it what?
Appreciate it.
I'd probably depreciate a TV, $400 or $500, and that's a capital expenditure. Install a wind deflector on top of the cab to increase fuel mileage. No, that's such a little item, just like a pencil sharpener, a stapler. If they cost $4 or $5 or $10, take them off as expense. Don't capitalize them. Okay? A deflector, I might take it off as expense, but you could depreciate it. You could go either way on that deflector. Okay. Modified the factory installed turbocharger with a special order kit designed to add 50 more horsepower. What do you think you would do? I'd depreciate it. It's a pretty big expense. Repaired a headlight. Revenue. Replaced a shock absorber that wore out. Revenue. Replaced fog and cab light bulbs. Those are just little old expenses, aren't they? Debit, repair and maintenance, and credit, cash, or accounts payable. Replaced the hydraulic brake system that had begun to fail during his latest trip through the Rocky Mountains. Probably, if it extended the life, you could depreciate that brake system. Remove the old radio and replace it with a new communication module. You probably could depreciate that new communication module, couldn't you? I don't know if it has navigation, what have you. Replace the old radar detector with a new model that is fastened to the truck with a locking device that prevents its removal. Okay, this is a radar detector. Depreciate or expense it? If it was real small, I'd expense it, but if it cost a lot, I'd depreciate it. And that's what we're talking about. Revenue versus capital. You'll have some of those in the multiple choice. All right. Let's look at number 18 briefly. We've got equipment, $375, life of 20, scrap of 25. Calculate the depreciation real quick. All right, 375 minus 25 gives us 350. 350 times 5% is 17.5. Are you good with that, Anthony? All right. What was the truck's book value of the equipment on January 1st of year 4? 3 years have passed. Whatever you got, Alicia, multiply it by 3 years, subtract it from 375. We're reviewing some concepts I touched on. What you got? 322.5, that sounds right. Assuming that the equipment was sold on January 5th of year 4 for $300,000, journalize the entry to record the sale. Okay, we need all those figures you had, Alicia. We got a credit equipment for $375. We got a debit cash for $300. Now, what was that accumulated depreciation you calculated? 3 times whatever it was.
322,005. Or you mean the actual value?
No. Okay. 375 minus 25 left us 350. Divided by 20 years was how much a year?
52.5.
How much?
52.5. Oh, I'm probably thinking, I'm doing the 3 years, never mind. 375.
All right. We got to look at this one. I'm getting little Alicia mixed up here. All right, how much is that right there? 375 minus 25 divided by 20.
17.5.
That's what you told me the first time. That's 1 year depreciation. 2 years, 3 years. Now multiply that by 3. 52.5. All right, we've got the debit, accumulated depreciation, for 52.5. We've got a credit equipment for 375. We've got a debit cash for how much? 300. Now look at those figures. Debits and credits have to balance. So do I have a loss or a gain?
Loss.
I've got a loss, Anthony, of how much?
22.5.
Now will it balance? It'll balance now, won't it? I guess. Yeah, it'll balance. Now, Alicia, you okay with that?
Yeah.
All right. Now, assume that the equipment had been sold for 300. Let's see. For 325 instead of 300. Now we're going to put 325 in here. Take this out. Now make it balance. Is that 2,500 gain or loss? Gain is a credit like revenue, like sales. A loss is a debit like an expense. Okay, now that's getting rid of a piece of equipment. Now let's look at number 19. Take a minute and find the depletion for the current year, answer A. What does that give me, Anthony, per ton?
9 million.
No, wait a minute now.
Per ton,
Yeah,
2.25.
$2.25. And they took out how many tons?
30 million.
No,
4 million.
and you multiplied that by what? Now, I believe, does that give you the 9 million you gave me, Anthony?
Yeah.
Okay, so you give me a final answer. I had to go through it step by step for these people out there in video land. Okay? Journalize the adjusted entry to recognize it. What do I debit for 9 million? What do I debit? What are we talking about? Depletion. So what do we debit?
Depletion expense.
Right, and so what do we credit?
Depletion.
Accumulated depletion. Now when we talk about depreciation, debit depreciation expense and credit accumulated. Okay? Let's look at number 30. Take a minute and read that one. Do a part. You're doing good tonight.
Number 30 or number 20?
Huh?
Is that number 30 or 20?
I meant number 20.
Oh, okay.
All right. That made that one a little bit tough. Now the patent cost how much? 2 million what?
8
And you divide that by how many years?
years.
Now 8 years into 28 is how much?
700,000.
Year 1, year 2, year 3. Are we good with that? Year 1, 2, 3? That gives you accumulated depletion of how much? Are you sure that's 700,000, dear? 8 into 28 is not 700,000.
I got 350,000.
I don't know what's wrong.
You divide 4 into 28. Did you get 350? That's better. Now what is my accumulated? Well, you don't accumulate it. You take it off each year. So take off 1 million. Is that 1,050,000? Somebody check that out for me. 1,050,000. Yes?
Yeah.
Now each year you debit amortization expense and you credit to patent. So that patent is on your books for 2,008,000 minus all that amortization, and that leaves how much? How much does that leave?
1,750,000.
That's what you've got left. Now, when you defend that patent, you paid out $38,000. You add that to patent and you credit cash, and you add $38,000 onto your book value at that time, and now that patent is worth how much? $1,788,000, if I'm adding correctly. Now, how many years do you have left after year 3? How many years do you have left? 5? Then divide that by 5. And you got your amortization for year 4. That all makes sense. I hope so. Okie dokie. Now, I'm not going to look at this asset turnover or book value. I'm not also going to look at the appendix. I am going to give you a couple of problems that you should work on, and you should finish Cengage. Now I want you to do problem 1A, and I will look at that problem with you next week before I give you the exam. 1A is cost off. Now land improvement is just something, all right, let's take Walmart. Walmart. You've got cash registers and shelves, that's all fixed assets. You've got the building, you can depreciate it. But now let's take outside Walmart. What are some land improvements? The parking lot, the shrubbery, the signs, the cart racks, all are land improvements. So that's why I want you to work this problem to note the difference between land, building, and land improvement. All right, and one more problem from this chapter. Probably 16.3a. That's the 3 methods of depreciation part year. 3 methods of depreciation part year. Now I think you all have done good on chapter 10 tonight. You caught on quick. You work these problems quick. And now we're going to review chapter 9 a little bit. Now I probably gave you some assignments on chapter 9, is that correct? What were they, Alicia? Gosh.
Problem 9.1a and problem 9.5a.
9.1a.
9.5a.
I feel like we should work those and reviewing chapter 9. I think chapter 8 you can do a bank reconciliation petty cash. Now we lost tonight because of water. We lost last week because of Thanksgiving. Now some of you, all of you, had 2 weeks off if you came tonight. If you didn't come tonight, you've had 3 weeks off before the exam. So still plenty of time to study and watch these videotapes. All right? Okay, so back to chapter 9, problem 1. Again, I would like to spend more time on this chapter, and we did rush it up. When I was up here in 1979, I probably told you this before, all these books have about so many chapters in them. This one has 26. I covered 13 chapters a semester. All right, and 15 or 16 weeks. And since then, I have realized that it's better to learn what we go over. tend to go over a lot and you're not learning it too well. And that's why at community college, I've covered 20 chapters. And my students in the state of Virginia, I'd get my best accounting students at PBL, and we won first, sometimes first and third, sometimes first and second in the state of Virginia for about 20 years every year. And we did have students in there from other community colleges, Durham College, sometimes from Virginia Tech, sometimes from James Madison, sometimes from UVA. And we still won, okay? Because I went slower, covered less chapters, and they learned it well, okay? I took some of these students on to national. I never did have a principal students. I might have had one to place in the top 10, but I had an intermediate student to play in the place in the top 10. And I had a parliamentary procedure team, PBL, and they placed in the nation in the top 10. Now in the nation, there was 50 states that had PBL chapters. And a lot of big universities in some of those states that we competed against. And we did well against some of the major universities. So, but I would get some of the best accounting students, and I would bribe them and threaten them, whatever it took to get them in PBL. I would go to, if I didn't get them in accounting, I'd find out who some of the best computer students were, some of the best management students and best marketing students. And I would get old tests, anything I could for them to study, and they competed well. So, one real quick story. One time, I had enough students to win in the state of Virginia that I had to take 2 big vans to Nashville, to Chicago. And 2 van loads, each van, well, I hear my telephone, but it's okay. Each van load probably was 13, 14. And we were coming back through Kentucky. And we'd gotten off the interstate where the speed limit's 70 miles an hour, right? And I don't know if you heard the Mountain Parkway or not down in Kentucky, but the speed limit's 55. I was going 74. And I had a student driver in the van behind me. They were college vans. And he was following me. I don't know why he didn't get caught, but the state trooper pulled me over. And anyhow, if you get a ticket in the state of Virginia in a government van or car, you have to write to governor and explain to them what happened. I didn't want to write to governor. So, anyway, police came up. I told him it's a government vehicle, could he not give me another change? And all my students heard that. He says, no, I have never let anybody out of a ticket going 19 miles an hour over. Maybe if you were going under 11, I might have considered it. So he goes back to his car, tells me to stay in the van. And the student said, Mr. Lester, you got a ticket. And one of them got a picture of me talking to police beside the van to put on the bulletin board. So you got a ticket? I said, no, he's not going to give me a ticket. What do you think he's doing back in his car? He's writing you a ticket. I said, no, he's not. He's not going to give me a ticket. And I don't know if I willed it or what. He came up to the window. He says, I don't know what came over me, but I'm not going to give you a ticket.
Oh my gosh.
He said, I'm going to call ahead. If you're speeding like that in any other little town in Kentucky, you're going to get a ticket. He probably didn't. He was just threatening. But that happened. That's a true story. And that was with that PBL. When I came up here to Bluefield 10 years ago, they had a small PBL chapter. And I think it died. Dr. Hunter and Dr. Scott sponsored it. Dr. Hunter's, Coach Hunter's, wife. She taught here at the time. And PBL just died. I don't know how it's doing in the state of West Virginia. But now, do you remember FBLA in high school? Did you hear of FBLA? No?
It's familiar, but
The what?
the acronym's familiar, but I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, FBLA in high school is the business students, and they compete. That's the high school level of PBL of college level for business students.
I wasn't in the business section.
The what?
I wasn't in the business group, so.
That's why you might not have heard of FBLA. The what? What school did you go to? Riverview?
Yeah.
Pretty big high school, isn't it?
It's single A.
The what?
It's a single A school, so.
Oh, it's not big then at all, is it?
No, there's like 400. Well, they actually just changed to a single A.
That's small. Most of the schools around here went to single A, especially over on the Virginia side.
Well, that one was actually they combined Gallagher High School and Big Creek to make Riverview, and it's still single A.
So, where would you have been going, to Yeager or Big Creek?
Gallagher.
That's pretty close to Bradshaw, isn't it?
Yeah, Riverview and Bradshaw. But I live in Bull Creek over toward the Panther side. So I was like 45 minutes from Riverview.
It's in Bradshaw.
Yeah, it's in
Hey there, young'un, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
We'll make the class tomorrow?
Of course, the last one. I'm not gonna miss it.
All right, you should be here. I'll see you.
Okay, see you.
Yeah, I love to hear her talk. She's from Serbia. Her and her friend Millie. They both have the same first name, Malika, Milika or something. And they didn't know one another before they came here, and they both had the same first name. Their last name starts with a K, but they have a different last name. And I asked her why they both had the same first name. And she said, just like our country, people like to name, a lot of people name their kids Matthew. And I believe that name was after a queen. They were named after some queen over there. Over here, we name them after basketball players, Michael Jordan, whoever, or President George Washington, what have you. But anyway, let's look at these solutions quick. Well, Miss Taylor's getting out before I am tonight, dadblamit. Number one, I'm going to look at this with you pretty fast, try to get you out of here pretty fast. But I want you all to please ask questions. If you need me to show you what's wrong or how something's worked, you may or may not have these in your possession right now. But please bring these problems next week. I'll count them as a bonus. All right. Here we had to set up an allowance for doubtful accounts. It may have had a balance in it on January 1 of 54.2. All right. Now looking at those, received 35% of the 9,000 balance owed by a bankrupt business and wrote off the remainder as uncollectible. We received 35% of the $9,000 balance. Well, whatever 35% of 9,000 is, would be $3,150 debit allowance for bad debts or accounts, and then credit account receivable. All right. Then we wrote off. No, we reinstated $4,000. All right. This guy hit the lottery and decided to pay us. When you do that, just reverse what you did and take his money. Okay? And you got to post $58.50 debit up here and 4,000 credit up here. And then we wrote off 11,850. All right, you got to post 11,850 debit to allowance, and then you reinstated somebody for 7,000 of that amount. Debit accounts receivable, credit allowance, then take his money and post. Now you wrote off a bunch of people here: bad debts, bad debts, bad debts, debit allowance, and credit to accounts receivable. Now here's the trick right here. This last entry is what I wanted to get to. All right, it says, based on analysis of 1,450,000, we guess that 60,000 is bad debts. Now look at this. That's not 60,000, is it? Why did we add 4660 to it? Because we kept our T account. With the direct write-off method, you don't have to do this, or the percent of sales method. We kept our T account, and we did our debits, and we did our credits, and our debits is 40, a minus 4660, so you had to add that on. If you had a credit balance, you'd have subtracted. Now, that's problem one. Please review that before the test. And the other problem is 5. Now, determine in each note the due date. How about number 1, Alicia? Do you have that one, dear? You do? What have you got on it? 5A.
Oh, 5A.
I guess, is it 4 or 5?
5.
Received a $140,000, 5%. What kind of interest you make for that one?
Debit, notes receivable, credit, accounts receivable.
All right. They've got it crossed over here, but you're correct. Is it 144,000? Debit, notes receivable, credit, accounts receivable. And then we received a 270,000 7-day note on account. Now that's going to be the same entry. Boy, they got them messed up here though. Debit, notes receivable, credit, accounts receivable, 270,000. All right, we're going to look at a couple more of these. Received $145,000 on note of April the 10th. Now, we will debit cash for $145,200. We will credit to note, and what do we credit for the difference? What? Interest revenue? I don't know if we'd even see this or not. It's up here pretty bad. Debit, yeah, here it is. Debit cash, $145,200, credit notes receivable, and then credit interest revenue, $1,200. What's a mess? This comes from the publisher. Received $150,000 45-day note. Same old entry, debit, notes receivable, credit what? Then we received cash and interest. No, you didn't even have to calculate the interest. Then here we got another notes receivable for accounts receivable. And here we get more cash on this note way up here. And we get interest receivable. Now, notes receivable and interest revenue. Now we're down to October. I feel like down in December we'll have to make maybe just an entry, we may not. October the 15th, another note for accounts receivable. November the 28th, we collected the cash and credit interest revenue. December 17th, we just collected cash and credit interest revenue. All right, basically that's the main entries on notes receivable. There's a thing called discounting that we didn't go into, okay? All right, you've got some assignments, you got your Cengage. Anthony has to rate his profession, and I'll see you all next week. Pipe stand. I'll put it in my GPS. I know you go down. I've been there before, and you go through a little foundation. Yeah. Okay, doke. See y'all next week. Good luck in studying and good luck on all your exams. And I did not cut off that live stream, even though I'm unplugged. I don't know what it's doing. Oh boy. Supposed to. I didn't.
See you, be careful.
You too, dear.